Okay, well, welcome to Behind the Mic Conversations of Hope. I am Mike Stone, your host, and I have with me someone that may be familiar to you if you're watching the show. This is Amanda Valantine. Amanda, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, getting through Thanksgiving. You know how it is, ate too much. Buckeyes lost today, but I'm still trying to, pick myself up off the ground.
Yeah, I really kind of just want to mope right now because that was a hard loss, second year in a row. But it is what it is, and there are bigger things than football. So we're going to press on. Hey, I've got some exciting news for those of you who are listening. If you follow me on social media, or if you go to my website, you have maybe already seen that we have some exciting news coming up. We're going to share that with you right now, actually. And then we've got a little bit of a podcast then after that we want to share with you too that will be timely. So Amanda and I, as you may have known from a previous episode, we knew each other way back in Bible college, and we were going through, I believe, the same major and graduated the same year. And then we met up just recently again here in Ohio, and we're kind of moving in the same direction as far as where our ministry is at right now. And so we have talked before and after the last podcast. And so, Amanda, I'm going to let you share the news, kind of what we're going to plan from here on.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been great to reconnect and with Mike and Tammy, and to get to be a part of what they see as a true ministry. And I'm honored to get to share this exciting news with you. Mike had asked me if I would play a role in the podcast more than just being on it one time. And that was to have a weekly segment. As well as help out with some other things as well. And so we are going to be kicking off a segment titled Hope Worth Repeating. And it's going to happen midweek. So you'll have something midweek, and you'll also have the normal podcast on Sundays, where I'm really excited about that. And Hope Worth Repeating is really going to give you a bird's eye view into several different resources that talk about hope, different authors, different books, different thinkers. We'll talk about maybe a resource that they've shared, and I'll share with you a quote that I think is worth repeating. And then we will dive into it and how we can glean hope from that quote. And then we'll let you know what resource that is. So if you love it, you can get it, and you don't have to just purchase books all over the place trying to find those nuggets of truth. We'll try to bring those nuggets of truth to you as well as the book. But I'm very excited about it because I used to have a blog that did the same thing, and it was really a passion of mine to not necessarily have to always come up with that perfect quote for people. But there's been so many amazing things written that can be repeated and can bring hope into your life. And so we're going to be starting that segment, and I'm thrilled to get to share that with you.
And we're excited to introduce that. So I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of insight. This podcast doesn't make a penny. I've never made any money off the podcast. I'm doing it because I believe that God's called me to do it. And maybe we'll talk about that sometime. But it didn't come about because I thought I was a great speaker. I know I'm not. It didn't come about because I wanted to make a bunch of money, because I'm not. It came about really because I have a passion for people. And that is just encouraging people along their journey and pointing those who don't know Jesus to Jesus. And I believe, Amanda, we share that. And so it seemed like a really good fit. You're down in the Columbus area. I'm up in the Northwest Ohio area, but through technology, we're able to do this. And so I'm grateful to do it and grateful to have you. I think it's a perfect fit. I think it'll be a great addition to the podcast. So we've talked a lot about stories and conversations in the past. So we're adding to that. We're not getting rid of that. We're going to continue to talk about stories, God stories, and God conversations. And then in, like Amanda said, midweek, she is going to come in and she's going to give you some hope worth repeating, which I think is going to be a great segment. We'll see what God does with it, but that's really what we want to do, is just share our passion for what God's called us to do with all of you. So we thank you for your support. We hope that you'll continue to support us. Tell others about the podcast. It's going to be a twice weekly thing now, and so we'll be excited to have you join us. Now, and there may be more exciting news coming. We have to get some things together, but that's the big one. I'm excited for that to happen, and I think it's a perfect fit. So, Amanda, with that, we are officially into the holidays. And I know through your coaching, you have all kinds of resources, you have all kinds of experience. We want to talk about the holidays.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Holidays are supposed to be a wondrous, joyful, miraculous time of year, but let's face it, life is hard, and it's not always that way. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, holidays come with a lot of expectation. And I think regardless of how difficult last year was, we still think this year is going to be the best Christmas ever, the best family get-togethers ever. And we always are setting ourselves up with these expectations. And, the problem with expectations is they can breed disappointment. And so when we set ourselves up to say this is going to be the best ever, then we are not giving any room for the fact that it's imperfect people that celebrate these holidays together. It's broken and hurting people that celebrate these holidays together. This year, there will be people who lost a loved one in the last year, and it's their first holiday season without them. There will be families that have gone through divorce in the last year, and it'll be the first holidays that are that way. There will be people who are grieving during the holidays. And, of course, you hear the songs, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And sometimes, I go, yeah, if you get that feeling every once in a while, but then you sometimes come back to reality and go, this is actually kind of a hard time of year. And there's so many people who deal with that. And the holidays can honestly be very triggering for some people because they remind you of traditions that maybe you can't have anymore. One that I have is my grandpa Cotter, growing up. He always dressed up as Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. We would go over to their house after going to church, and he would carry a pocket watch, and he would count down till Christmas. And and we would go to my grandma's, and we got to bring baby Jesus down off the roof of the nativity scene and put him in the manger. And both of my grandparents have passed now, and there aren't any huge family get-togethers like with cousins and aunts and uncles. It's changed. The traditions have changed, and sometimes we have to grieve that loss. So yeah, holidays can be very difficult. There's moments of joy. There's moments of difficulty. So I think one of the best things we have to do is to realistically prepare for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think as children, just the gifts alone and just the pageantry, the things we did in school, the things we did at church, become tradition to us. And, I look back to those things now, in my 50s, and it's kind of, you season that now with a dose of reality. And the one thing that I think is important to understand is it's easy when you lose someone. My dad is no longer with us. Both my grandparents are gone. And it's easy to become cynical. When we go in the grocery store in October and the Christmas decorations are up, it's easy to become cynical. And I think that taking our focus off of the things that are really affecting us and understanding really the meaning behind the holiday and not leaving that, not like you said, expectations, resetting expectations, I think is important because we don't want to become cynical. There are too many movies about Scrooge and Grinch that we don't want to become that. So There are enough of those, right?
There's enough. I don't know. I think one more musical could be good, but I always love musicals. You're right. And I think it's just important, like I said, to realistically prepare ourselves, prepare our hearts, prepare environments, just prepare our souls so that we can stay present. We can remember what the season is all about. That's very important because really, when we look at the Bible, it says his name will be Emmanuel, God with us. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to focus on this year is no matter how difficult it is, Emmanuel is with us. And he's walking with us through this time of year, whether it's, the best, it's like your first Christmas as a married couple or first Christmas with a little one, or it's a difficult season. He is with us in all of it. And I think that that's really important to remember. I will say that I think there's a few really good tools to have in your toolbox this time of year. And I'm just going to give you three, and we can talk a little bit more about planning for the holidays in a minute. But the first tool that you have during this season is that you can call on the Lord at any time. Psalm 46:1 says, God is my refuge and my strength, a very present help in trouble. We can always call on the Lord. The second thing we can do is to call a brother or sister in Christ. Ecclesiastes says 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. So if you're struggling and you need to reach out, don't be ashamed about that. Call someone that you can talk to and they can encourage you and be there for you. And the third one is to stay present. Don't isolate. Try to stay in the moment and not worry about what happened in the past and not be concerned about what's going to happen in 30 minutes. But remember to focus. What I like to tell people is focus on the person in front of you. And that's all you have to do. Love the person in front of you. Focus on the person in front of you. Focus on the task at hand. And don't go beyond that. And just go from task to task that way, person to person that way, staying present in the moment. Saying yes to activities like family games that some of us might want to avoid. But saying yes so that we are staying present in the moment and we're not isolating, because that can really cause a lot of detriment to the health of our brain and to our just feeling like we belong. So those are 3 tools I say: call on the Lord, call a brother or sister in Christ, and stay present.
Staying present, I think, is a difficult one for me because I am an introvert. So I naturally just kind of want to withdraw so I can recharge. But I know over the holidays, sometimes you just want to step away. And we can't, I guess, based on your advice, we can't let that become habit. We need to force ourselves outside of that box, especially during the holidays. I still go back to the first Christmas without my dad, and everybody just kind of didn't really want to do it, because it wasn't the same. That was his favorite holiday. And so, not forcing ourselves to push forward and do some of those traditions and just continue on would have been detrimental. I think we all at this point would have just kind of withdrawn and been kind of, like I said, cynical and been like, oh, Christmas is coming again, and call on the Lord. And that's something that we should be doing every day anyway, because if you do that once a year, it just seems like a cliche, but if you're doing that all the time, you recognize how important that is, because if we're calling on the Lord for things all the time, every day, it becomes a habit, and that one is a really simple one to do if we're in the habit of doing that. So really great stuff there.
Yeah, I think especially this time of year, we think about Christmas and we think about Christ, and I myself, part of me, have started to lean a little bit more into the advent of the season. and the expectancy of the season. And every year I've gotten an Advent study. And even for my kids, Advent, it's little Advent ornaments that become a garland that we read. Now as they've gotten older, it's harder to get them wrangled around to want to read together as a family.
Yeah.
But we still have the garland to prove that we once did. But drawing near and Advent, there are really a lot of good Advent resources out there. I can link one that I'm doing this year, as well as some others in the notes if anyone is interested, because Advent season is right on us.
Yeah, that's right.
And it is a great way to reflect on really what this season is about and keep it as a call on the Lord, because Advent, is expectancy. It's waiting, really. And we're all waiting, we're all going to be waiting till Jesus comes for the hope and the peace that we desperately long for to be permanent and to be pervasive. So I think, with that tool, that first tool, looking at maybe doing an Advent study or even just reading, a gospel or something like that you could do can keep you close to the Lord during this time.
Absolutely. And you're looking at about a month of daily readings or reflections or meditations or whatever. That can become a habit really quickly too. And it's, I think it is something that a lot of us miss because we do focus on that one day, and focusing all the focus and the time and the energy to be put into one day can drain you. So I love that idea of the Advent and just making time every day to refocus and recenter on what we're even doing this for. So really good stuff. Exactly.
And there's also just some really great Christmas music to listen to. You don't always have to listen to some of the stuff that's out there that is just, pop Christmas music, which is fun for your work get-togethers or whatnot. But there are some really great songs, spirituals this time of year that you can have playing in your home just to cultivate that presence of God in your home and while you're doing the tasks that have to be done, and being able to bring that peaceful presence into your home, I think is really important. There's all kinds of ways to make home feel like a haven, right? There's music, there's certain smells of the holidays. I love the smell of mulled apple cider, and I love, the smell of monkey bread and an awesome ham dinner. I have a certain scent called Christmas Spirit that I love to diffuse in the house. There are things you taste that, bring, it's the Christmas season, right? There's things you touch, there's things you see. So engage your senses. That's another way to stay present is what am I seeing right now? Well, I'm seeing the Christmas tree. What am I touching right now? What am I tasting right now? And that keeps you grounded and present, especially when your brain starts to get into stress mode or gets triggered. Use those five senses to stay connected to the present.
Yeah. You just mentioned triggers. Can we talk about triggers?
Yeah, let's talk about triggers. Triggers are painful reminders of the past. They can pop up from hearing a specific song, eating a specific food, seeing a specific person, driving on a specific street, shopping seeing a store in the mall. Triggers can come from anywhere that have to do with past trauma or past hurts, past wounds. You look through albums of past Christmases, and there's all kinds of triggers there, grief and hurts. And, maybe you've got a child who's not living at home or is far from God, and you see pictures of them and when they're little and they're in their Christmas plays, and there's these triggers, that happen. And I think that we are not helpless against triggers. And that's one of the main things I want to get across is we're not helpless against triggers. We cannot control that they happen, but we can control what we do with them. And so, you know, could be even certain ornaments for the trees. It could be that you used to host Christmas Eve and now everybody's graduated, so you have an empty house on Christmas Eve. So what can you do about them? Well, I think, you know, you have to be real with yourself. If looking at pictures triggers you, don't look at the pictures. Just focus on the here and now and what memories are being made now. And don't go back right now if you're not ready to go back and look at pictures. Make new traditions that you can use instead of maybe some of the ones that are triggering. Like this year, both my twin sister and I, we both were talking the other day and we're like, we think we should do Christmas caroling. And I'm like, I was thinking the same thing. And so introducing, you know, new traditions that don't trigger you like some of the old traditions might. If there's things you need to get rid of them. And make sure, you know, that you don't isolate with triggers. Reach out to someone. Be with others at lonely times. That is so important, is to be with others. But those triggers can definitely come up. And there are honestly specific triggers for specific holidays even. And that's why, you know, I think it's really important to have a plan for the holidays for each specific one, because each one is different, right? What triggers you for Thanksgiving probably won't trigger you all the way for Christmas Eve or Christmas or New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. So that's why I think a plan is important. And I think it's also important to remember when we're thinking about how difficult the day might be is that it's just one day. It's just one day. And we can get through it. We can get through it. Dealing with triggers is part of the season. I think doing some intentional work around this is really good. And I can make this document available in our links. But this, one thing I think is important is, what is your goal for this season? You know, ask yourself, what is my goal for this season? You know, for me, my goal is that love is shown. You know, no matter if it's given back, I want to show love to people around me. That is one of my goals for this season. Making new traditions is another goal for this holiday season. Being with family. I love to craft, so crafting. Having intentional moments of calm, because I too need alone time to re-energize. What we would normally say is an obvious goal is celebrate Jesus, right? But also celebrate us. Celebrate your family. Celebrate what you've been through. Make new and pleasant memories. So the question is, what is my goal for this holiday season? And write it down. Write it down. Get it on paper. What is my goal? Another question, another journaling prompt or something you can write down. Like I said, I will make this document available is, what do I like about our holidays? I like that you're with family more. I like that, you know, there's a little bit of a slower pace on those days, you know, where nobody has to be at work and things like that. I like the certain traditions and the foods around holidays. I love to have a cozy fire in the fireplace and not so much of a schedule. I love the Christmas Eve church service. So what do you like about what you already do with your holidays? And write it down. And then in the next breath, what don't I like? You know, I don't like the excess of the holidays. Sometimes I don't, man, when I was a young mom, I would get so anxious around Christmas thinking how many new things were coming into the house, right? So sometimes it's the excess that I don't like. It's sometimes the pretending or the masks that people put on so that they don't have to you don't get to see what's really going on. And the reason I don't like that about our holidays is just because I care about people where they really are, you know,
that's right.
And that's how we can love them. The holidays also for me, can carry with them some superficial family conversations. So I tend to be a deep talker. I go deep fast, and that's kind of how I type on the Enneagram. That's where I am everywhere, is I'm a deep talker. And so superficial talk, I don't like about the holidays. Like, oh, what'd you get for Christmas? Oh, what color is this? Oh, can we live this weather? I'm like, I want to know, like, what's going on with your soul?
Yeah, that's right.
So I might not like that about that. But then you can ask yourself, what do I want to do differently? What do I want to do differently if I don't like those things? Well, I want to do more with family. I want to spend less time dwelling on the past. I want to surrender my expectations. I want to be present. So, there are different things that you can do. And then what are some ideas for some new traditions? Well, maybe your family wants to see the Nutcracker together every year, or maybe you want to go to the zoo lights every year. But building in those things that you actually enjoy, I think, is really important.
Yeah, that brings up one of the things that we did, and it's right on, according to what you're saying, is it was Christmas Eve was a really special time for my family. We would always go to our Christmas Eve service at church, and then we would go back to my parents' house, unwrap gifts, and just spend time together. So when my dad was no longer there, none of us wanted to do that. And so my immediate family, my wife and my 2 kids, we decided, because Grandpa liked Waffle House, after service on Christmas Eve, we would go to the Waffle House, and hardly anybody was there. So that has become a crazy little tradition for us that we look forward to now. So I think you're right on line. You can take those things that are, it became such a sad time because we recognized who we were missing, and we flipped it around and said, he wouldn't want us to be upset at this time. So we did something kind of to honor him, and it became just something we do now. My wife doesn't even like Waffle House, but we still go and we enjoy it. And we usually have a lot of great conversations with the staff that's there because they're usually bored. So, I really like that advice. And I think it's really trying to just, what am I focused on? You said focus a lot. And I think if we aren't aware of it, we can start focusing on the wrong things.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to do. It's very easy to get caught up in our, what we call stinking thinking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I, going along with just, your goals and stuff, I really think that, especially if the holidays are difficult for you, it's important to have a plan for the day.
I like that.
So on this tips kind of sheet for my plan for the holidays, it goes through each holiday. And we've already passed Thanksgiving, so my Thanksgiving one is done. But the next one is my plan for Christmas Eve. Now, I don't think I've shared this on the podcast before, but this year I went through a divorce. And so this is my first year going through the holidays, being divorced and doing shared parenting. So sharing traditions instead of, doing them all together, that's been very hard. Yeah. And I've grieved a lot of those things because I won't have my kids on Christmas Eve this year. I'll have them later in the day on Christmas Day. So things that I used to do, my traditions that I had set up when we were all together was, pajamas every Christmas Eve. And I'd make caramel corn on Christmas Eve. And we'd watch a movie and we'd play a game. And now it's going to look very different this year because I won't be with them. So when I look at my plan for Christmas Eve, when I identify, when I'm making a plan, the first thing I want to do is identify the possible triggers. And possible triggers for me for Christmas Eve are the tradition of the pajamas, the driving around and seeing Christmas lights together as a family, the Christmas Eve service together as a family. Mm-hmm. And then for me, Christmas Eve, staying up late with my oldest daughter and my now ex-husband, and wrapping gifts and getting the stockings ready and all that stuff that has to happen, putting the cookies out for Santa. And so all of those are a little triggering this year when I think about them. Yeah. I think about that's not what it's going to be like. And so after I've listed my possible triggers, then for each trigger, I list my planned response. And my planned response for some of these triggers are for the pajamas. Well, I'm going to get pajamas for myself. And I might even get pajamas for my parents and see a movie with them and hang out with them on Christmas Eve. You know, when it comes to the caramel corn, I make it for them. When it comes to still the late night wrapping with a family member, I think I'll turn on maybe one of my favorite Christmas movies and wrap then and have hot cocoa and things like that. So coming up, you know, with the possible triggers in my planned response is important because you already know what you're going to do if that trigger comes up.
Yeah.
One of the hard things is if a trigger comes up and you just freeze.
Yeah.
Or you go into, fight or flight and you're stuck because I don't know what to do with this trigger. This came up. I didn't even see it coming. And so it's important to go ahead and think through Christmas Eve, through Christmas Day. What are the possible triggers for those days?
Yeah.
Write them down and then write your planned response for each one. How do you think that could help maybe some people, Mike, with their triggers?
You know, first of all, I'm grateful and thankful that you shared your personal because I think a lot of people are there. And I think that it's great advice not to try to forget about that night or that day. But like you said, plan it out. These are the things that are going to happen. So how am I going to react when that feeling hits me, when that time comes when we would normally do this and it's not happening? I love the fact that you plan ahead and you have already decided what's going to happen. I think that's so important because I know lots of friends that I have that have gone through that already and or going to along with you. I think it's important to realize, too, that you're not alone, unfortunately. This is happening all over the world. It's an unfortunate result of just sin in our world that this happens. But I think it's important just to, like you said, to plan on that. This is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to handle that. It actually becomes a new normal, right? You built those traditions. Those traditions were special to you. But now there's a new normal, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. I like the idea. It sounds kind of good to me to pop in a movie and wrap with hot chocolate. Because it's. I remember lots of chaotic Christmas Eves as well. But regardless of what you want, you know what is reality, and I think the planning part is so important. I think it's great advice.
Yeah, and I even take it a step further too. You know, so once you've planned your possible triggers and your what your planned response is make a plan for the day. The day can come and it can hit hard. It can hit you hard. So literally I plan out, what am I going to do in the morning? What am I going to do in the afternoon? What am I going to do in the evening? Yeah. And then I have a plan B for those things.
Yeah.
So
because life happens, right?
Life happens. And so for instance, I'll go back to Thanksgiving because I haven't planned my day yet for Christmas Eve. But I put in the morning, I'm going to shower. I'm going to watch the parade. I'm going to eat the homemade cinnamon rolls. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to make the relish tray for the family meal. Okay. Plan B is if someone is sick, then I will send the relish tray with someone and have someone bring me cinnamon rolls.
There you go.
For the afternoon is dinner at my sister's house. Plan B, if someone is sick, stay home and eat leftovers another time, watch a movie. Evening, hang out at sister's house, bring a game and a craft. It's always good for me to bring a craft with me everywhere I go because it's good for me to keep my hands busy.
Yeah.
Bring a game or a craft. And then plan B is If someone is sick, then at home I will craft and decorate and watch movies and drink hot cocoa. So I have a plan A and I have a plan B. And then I feel good going into the day knowing this is exactly what I'm going to do on that day. So when I start to feel like the anxiety or the triggers coming, I'm like, okay, it's afternoon, which means it's time for dinner at my sister's house. I just need to do what I need to do to get out of the house and get there. That's the most important thing, you know? And so that is the final layer, really, of the plan for the holidays. And you can plan for all of them. Christmas, the ones that are left, you know, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Plan for every single one, you know, and even into the new year. If there are triggering holidays, you know, like Valentine's Day or even Easter for some people because they've lost loved ones, make a plan for it, you know? Yeah. Or if you know there's a hard day coming, like it's an anniversary of the death of a loved one, make a plan for that day and bring someone into that day with you so that you're not doing that day alone. Yeah. You know, so plan for these difficult trigger-inducing days so that you're ready for them and they don't take you by surprise, and don't try to go it alone.
That's awesome. You know, I think this was a little bit heavy, and holidays are supposed to be bright and cheery. But honestly, I think that if we were to poll everyone listening, we would find that the large majority of those listening understand exactly what this is about, because I think we have all pretty much been there or are dealing with something like this. So really great stuff, Amanda. Holidays are just around the corner. In fact, we're kind of in them. We just got through Thanksgiving, so it's off and running whether you're ready for it or not. We want your holiday to be joyful, and we want you to plan ahead. Whether you're having those first holidays with a newborn, or whether this is one of those really tough holidays, we want you to plan ahead and to find the joy and the purpose behind the holiday. Amanda, is there anything you want to add to this?
You know, I just want to add just a few quick tips. The first one being to set small, reasonable goals per day. Don't try to do everything in one day. Like the night before, I've got cookies, gifts, da-da-da-da. Set small, realistic
we do that.
goals. Yeah, it's right.
Yeah, it's stressful.
And then if you want to call a friend to be a part of it, call a friend to be a part of it, or a family member. Another one is to make an effort during this time of year to still be physically active. It's harder to do when the weather is bad, but even a short walk outside, or if the weather's too bad, go walk the mall or a big store and get active, get moving. You know, our body responds to those large motor activities. A lot of times I'll roll my shoulders, I'll stretch, jumping jacks, you know, things like that. They can really just get the endorphins going in your brain. So set small, reasonable goals per day. Make an effort to be more physically active. And then the final one is to be kind to yourself. If you're having a tough year, this is not the year to try to have the best light display outside and the biggest Christmas village inside and 13 different kinds of cookies and 8 Christmas trees. You know, you don't be kind to yourself.
You're setting yourself up for failure.
You are. Scale back a little bit if you do. You know, scale back. It's okay. Give yourself a break and remind yourself this will get easier. It will get easier over time and as you heal. But just be kind to yourself. I will say this, you know, the last thing is I got really gung-ho one day about decorating for Christmas, and then more of life happened, and I just lost the desire to do it. I feel unmotivated, tired. And of course I ended up getting sick, but, I'm telling myself as part of my plan that it's not going to probably be a surge of joy or something that's going to get me to do that this year. It's going to have to be planned and setting a small, reasonable goal every day. Get the tree out today. Bake a batch of cookies today. That's going to keep me going. And that's important because you're not letting yourself do nothing, which makes you feel guilty and worse, but it helps you. I'm going to empty this one Christmas ornament bin today, and just to make it day by day. And I can just be real with the people listening. That is where I am this year.
Yeah.
And if you're there too, that's okay. Yeah. Be kind to yourself. Reach out for help. Remember, you can call on the Lord. You can call on a brother or sister in Christ, and you can stay present in the moment. Emmanuel is with us. He is with us this year, in the good and the bad and the ugly. He is with us.
Amen. Such great advice. I also would like, for those of you who would like to do so, again, Amanda and I both have a heart for people and drawing them closer to Jesus. So if you have any prayer requests over this next month of holidays, please feel free to post them on social media. If you don't want to post them on social media, that's okay. You can also email us. You can email mike@behindthemic.net, and we will pray for you. We will take those requests to the Lord on your behalf, and we would be honored to do so. Well, I want to remind you, Amanda is going to be a regular fixture here, whether she likes it or not. It's going to be fun. And this was, I think, a good example of what you're going to hear on Hope Worth Repeating. A little bit of that really deep advice and some practical things that will help you through. And so we invite you to invite others to listen and to join us, and watch for social media for that kickoff. It's coming soon. We believe it'll probably be the first of the year, but who knows? We may jump in a little bit early too. So, Amanda, we're grateful that you shared today about the holidays, which I think is so important because we know there are people out there with a smile on their face and dreading this season. So I think that's a lot of great advice that you can arm people with. I know I'm going to be using some of that as well. And so, all right, until next time, remember, if your life is grounded in Jesus, even in the darkest times, there's hope.